Welcome to the 2026-2027 New Coordinator May webinar from the California Department of Education. This high-level training is designed to support you in your coordinator role by sharing key resources, guidance, and best practices to help you succeed. My name is Melissa Stockbridge, and I'll be your producer today. Today's webinar is going to focus on prepping initial and initial alternate ELPAC. Just a few things before we get started. All participants are muted today. So please, if you have any questions, submit them using your Q&A feature in the Zoom, not the chat. I will only be monitoring the Q&A during the webinar. A copy of today's resource guide was emailed to you, but if you don't have that email, don't fret. We will be putting the resource guide in the chat, and you can download your own copy in order to edit it. Today's session will be recorded as well. So the recording will be posted on the upcoming and on-demand trainings page of the CAASPP and ELPAC website. And that's about it. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce you to today's expert panelists, Jadine Jones from the Sacramento County Office of Education and Stephen Bartlett from LA County Office of Education.
Thank you very much, Melissa. As mentioned, I'm Jadine Jones from the Sacramento County Office of Education, and I'm going to be starting us off today, and then I will pass it to my partner in this work, Stephen, midway through. So thank you for joining us. So today we're talking about preparing for initial and initial alternate ELPAC, and more than likely you are the LEA coordinator. You may be in this role right now, or you may just be taking this role on. So hopefully this is very timely for you to help you understand what are the things that need to get done to administer and prepare for initial and initial alternate. So we're going to talk about the purpose, preparing for the administration, the very important 30-day process that's involved, things to do after testing, talk about some action items, some homework, and then Q&A, getting answers to your questions. So the purpose. So here we have our cute little initial ELPAC guy and our big summative ELPAC guy. And the initial ELPAC is just like a small part, right? It's a screener. So it is the same as the summative ELPAC in the blueprint. However, the initial alternate ELPAC blueprint is different, but it's the same as the summative alternate ELPAC. Okay. So the purpose of the initial ELPAC is to determine whether a student is identified as an English learner or not, right? The initial ELPAC is aligned to the 2012 California English Language Development Standards, and the initial alternate ELPAC is designed to the ELD standards via the ELD connectors, and these are a reduction like in breadth and depth and complexity. The initial ELPAC is a computer-based assessment, and it measures proficiency in 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The initial ELPAC for the alternate is also computer-based, and it measures proficiency, but through integrating listening and reading into receptive task types, and then speaking and writing into expressive task types. And this allows the students taking the alternate assessment to use their preferred modality of communication. So, who takes the initial ELPAC or the initial alternate ELPAC? It should only be a student who has never taken the ELPAC, a student who is entering California for the very first time, and then the all-important document to refer to, the Home Language Survey, or the HLS. It would have a response from the parent or guardian that would have a language other than English or other than American Sign Language. So if one of those responses is a language other than English, that home language survey, that is your key document that begins this process, right? A student must be in grade kindergarten or higher, so no TKs. And then for the initial alternate LPAC, a student must have been identified to take the alternate assessments by their IEP team. And so this initial alternate process all takes place start to finish within 30 calendar days of the student enrolling. Also, there's a Moodle training and LEA certification that needs to happen. We're going to talk about this a little bit more because sometimes Moodle can get a little confusing for folks. And so if you're a first timer, hang in there. We're going to do some demos and hopefully help get your questions answered. So LEA coordinators or a designee need to complete the LEA certification in Moodle. And there would have been an email that went out about that. And then test examiners, they must complete the training within it, Moodle, for the initial LPAC. Initial alternate LPAC, you only need to do that training as an LEA certification if you have students enrolled to take the initial alternate LPAC. The LEA LPAC coordinators back in April would have received an email that had a link to the AST, which is the Administration and Scoring Training Site, or AST. So that email went out in April, around April. If you didn't get it, I'll show you how to get that information, because within that is the important link to the AST and then the access code that will get you in to where you need to be for your training. If you did not get that email or you can't find it, Moodle support at scoe.net, it is who you can email to get the link, right? And then within the AST, there are different enrollment keys that you're needed that you will need to get into Moodle. Right, so within Moodle, Moodle is an online training site. So and it is specific for LPAC. And right now we're talking about initial LPAC. So you will need to create user accounts in Moodle for individuals that will be trained within Moodle. And everyone who's doing the speaking and writing will need to be trained and calibrated. So they're going to need a Moodle account. If they have a previous Moodle account, it will still work. If they forgot their password, they can email Moodle support at scoe.net and they'll help get a reset, right? So there is a template that you can do and batch upload, or individuals can actually create their own account with some information. There are resources within Moodle, like the Moodle site user guide, and that's linked in the resource guide. And that can help you, contains detailed information about how to navigate the system, right? And then there's something new this year called the Moodle Training Decision Tool. And that can tell you when you get there and you're like, what training is it I need to do? That one has like a decision if then type questionnaire that you can do. I'm going to show you this in just a minute. I'll show you a little demonstration with the Moodle. And then, so when you're in Moodle, you will be able to access the enrollment keys, all right? So think of keys. This unlocks the training that you need to complete your initial LPAC training or initial alternate training. So a key, you need that key. Once you get that key, you, the LEA coordinator, designee, needs to share that key to unlock that training for the test examiner training and calibration with those individuals that need it. So as an LEA coordinator, it's your responsibility to share those, right? Then once the keys are shared, then you need to monitor completion, right? There is a place within there that you can set up 3 users that have the ability to see who has completed the training. So I'll show you where that is in there. And then also, there will be certificates that are issued. And so you're going to want to think about monitoring that as well, right? So anyone who's doing speaking must complete the calibration, as well as the writing domain must complete the training and calibration for initial ELPAC. And then you, as an LEA, it's a local decision to determine how you're going to train your test examiners who are not doing those components, right? And in that Moodle resource guide or user guide, it explains how to access reports, but I'll give you a quick demo now. All right. So going to the, yes, yeah, well, we think we're going to do that. All right, in the AST site right here. So this is the administration and scoring training website that I mentioned. And then in the email, they sent you an access code. That is a secure code. You will submit it in here. And when you click submit, it'll take you to the Moodle training site. And it looks like it probably locked me out already. But within the Moodle training site, sorry about that. That's not what I wanted to go to. Within the Moodle training site, it will look like, sorry, this is not going very well, is it? Right. There's the AST website. You enter that in there. And then this is the Moodle website. There are things you can get to without logging in. Like if you need to create a new account. Up here in the top, create a new account. And then if you scroll down, and I'm not logged in yet, under initial ELPAC training resources, if you were to click that, this, I remember I mentioned a Moodle decision training tool right here. This, if you hover over it, that becomes a link. And you click on that, and there are questions that ask you what grade level, which test, and then it's like as I mentioned, an if then helps you know which training you need to do. So we are talking about the initial training or for ELPAC for the test examiner. And if you were to click on that, this won't let you in because I'm not logged in. Once I log in, it will show me all the different things that need to be done to do the initial ELPAC training and calibration course, right? So on this dashboard, it shows you these different pieces. And then right here is a button that shows reports. This is where you can see who has completed the training or not, right? But you won't be able to get to that until you complete the piece on the AST website that shows you, sorry, it went away already. Let me try it on my other browser. All right. On the top half of the page, when you are in Moodle and you have the access key, once you log into the AST, it's going to look something like this, right? And it'll give you your initial ELPAC Moodle enrollment keys. This is secure information, so I've blocked mine out. But if you need it for a test examiner or for certification, and it's broken up through K-12, or if you're an upper grade, you need grades 6 through 12. That is where you will find that information. You will take the little enrollment key that's right here. That's what you put into Moodle, and it allows you to unlock and get to the training resources. It also in Moodle, remember I mentioned the reports. You want to know if your trainers have completed that, your ELPAC examiners. You're going to go in here, and I mentioned there are 3 people. So if it's you, like for here, it's me, and then I can enter 2 other names. Those 3 people will be able to monitor the who has completed and get those reports for the LPAC, right? For the training completion. All right, so let me get back to my PowerPoint here. Oh, great. So that was in Moodle. That's how you're going to access it, get through that. That's how you're going to get your enrollment keys. That's how you get to the AST. Oh, there was one other thing I was going to show you on that AST site. How to, if I mentioned the email and you didn't get the email, maybe you aren't in this position yet, or you don't know where to find it. On the CAASPP-LPAC website, there's this search feature up here, and I had already entered it, and I entered initial LPAC Moodle, and down here it was an option. It's like, oh, here it is. So when I clicked on it, this gives you all the details step by step of, you can't remember where to get to the link, it's right here linked for you for the AST. And then it goes through the different steps of what to do. So the search feature on the website is a gem. You're going to want to make sure that you're using that, right? All right, some Moodle tips. Be prepared to support your test examiners. First time around, Moodle can be a little tricky, but use the user guide, help support them as they navigate through the system. Make sure that you've given them their keys to get into the training, the correct training that they need. And then also there's something new this year for test examiners. It used to be you had to request a certificate once you finish. Now you have the option, the ability to get certificate. There'll be a button right there, get certificate. They're not going to be sent via email anymore. So figure out within your organization, how are you going to collect those certificates if they're going to email you once they get them completed. So that's just a system you're going to want to develop within your own organization. You can always use that report, right? So getting prepared for the initial ELPAC and the initial alternate ELPAC, a few more things. Ordering materials for K2 writing, right? So these are paper books that you're going to order. And then if you have alternate assessments, there are picture cards that you can order for them. You're going to want to make sure that you get your SSIDs and you verify your SSIDs. Students can't test without an SSID. So you're going to work with your CalPads and enrollment people to make sure that you have this. And then your testing schedule. When are you going to test? Are you going to test in the summer? Are you going to test at the beginning of the year? And then just a reminder, initial LPAC goes all year long. If you're still in school right now, you could possibly get a student that would need the initial LPAC right now. So it's open right now. And so just keep that in mind. And then you're planning for your data after testing is over. You're just going to want to make sure that you have a process in place. Once the test is scored within TOMS, it talks to CalPads and it updates the student from if the student is eligible to be tested per that home language survey, it's going to be a TBD or to be determined for their language status, right? And those are the only students you'll be able to test. So that's where that enrollment, SSID, and all that comes into place. Once that student's tested, you're going to want to communicate to whoever your ELD support person is, your CalPads people, your student information system, to make sure all these systems get updated and everyone knows who these new English learners are who need support. So I mentioned LPAC orders for materials. So for the K2, there are answer books for the writing domain. So let's review that process. And that's going to be in Tom's. I'll give you a quick demonstration on that, where you go in and you order the materials, and they're considered a supplemental order right now. And you can order all year long. There are videos that can help support you on the how-to hub. If maybe you don't remember this training, you can also reach out to your LEA success agent and they can help you in the ordering process. All right. Oops. All right. It will also help you with how many students to order and all those things. So, you know what? I realized, Stephen, my Tom's login has expired. So I'm going to wait to show this demonstration, kind of circle back around. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, but I realized my demo account expired already, timed out. And so I don't want to share any secure information. All right.
All right. I'm going to take over sharing then.
Thank you.
And if you'd like me to attempt to go in and show that aspect, I can do that, or we can loop around at the end.
If you have time right now and you want to go ahead and demo how to do those orders that we talked about, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll pop in later.
Okay, so I'm here in I go to Tom's from the CAASPP.org website, and I sign in. I'm using a secure login here, and then I believe for next year's orders, I would need to log in to next year. But for just the purposes of looking at what it looks like, I'm going to go into this current year. And I will go to this tab that says orders. And I go through the steps of ensuring that all this information is filled out. It won't let you go through unless that has already been filled out. If it is beyond the date at which a primary order can be placed, it will not allow you to place a primary order, and it'll block you from doing that with this error. But you can place a supplemental order. The initial ELPAC goes throughout the entire year. You may notice on the CAASPP-ELPAC website that there is a deadline by which you have to order initial ELPAC materials, but that deadline is indicating a into the ordering window for 25-26 materials, and the supplemental order window for 26-27 remains open. They happen to be the same materials this roundabout, and so you will be able to reuse anything that you have from the prior administration this time. All right, that was the demo, and let's go back to the slides. All right, so we're going to review testing resources for the initial ELPAC, initial alternate ELPAC. We're going to start with directions for administration. That's what DFA stands for up there in the top left. They're secure materials. Because they're secure, they require a login to access that login to the TOMS testing system. This isn't going to be a demo, but in terms of where that is going to be under your resources, and then secure materials is where that shows up. So DFAs for the initial alternate are right there. And you choose a grade level. All right, the DFAs, they include directions. They're directions for administration. That is, they include the required scripts, the step-by-step instructions for administering the test, what the test administrator, the test examiner has to read and say and do. DFAs explain how to enter speaking and writing scores, and you are going to score those locally during testing. Your test examiner will. In 26-27, you'll be able to reuse printouts from last year of DFAs. That's because the content's not changing again. The 25-26 DFAs and even unused K through 2 paper writing booklets, I believe are compatible and can be rolled over and reused for the 26-27 testing cycle. All right, next column, PFAs, preparing for administration. So these are your go-to guide for help with planning and preparing for testing. They're not secure documents, and so they don't require login. They're posted on the ELPAC website under manuals and instructions. So what is the ELPAC website? It's the CAASPP-ELPAC website. It looks like that. And you'll find it on this without a login. There's a link to the PFAs in the resource guide. It'll take you straight there. Finally, CAASPP and ELPAC Manuals Library is going to be one of your best resources. That's the right-hand column there. And that is reachable on the website here. If you're right here and you click Help and you click Manuals Library, it'll take you to all of these, several of which address initial ELPAC. The go-to guides for initial are going to be the ELPAC Online Test Administration Manual. You can get into your joy with using indecipherable acronyms now by calling that the OTAM. You can find also an alternate ELPAC OTAM, scoring and reporting guide, and there are links to these in your resource guide. All right. So the first thing you're going to need to do when you're planning for administration is find out how many students need to test with the initial ELPAC. So I'm going to go and do that in the system. So here I am. I am back at the front page at cas-lpac.org. Oops, I'm actually not at the front page of CAASPP. Here I am at the front of cas-lpac.org. I'm going to hit Tom's again, and here I am, I'm logging in. Normally it'll require that you log in to the system there. Since we are not in the testing window for the initial ELPAC yet, for next year, I'm going to log into this current 25-26 year. If you do not have both roles here, 25-26 and 26-27, it is because your superintendent has not named you as the LEA coordinator, one of the LEA coordinators for next year yet. So you need to ask your superintendent to do that or ask if somebody else has been assigned that role. So roles for admin, we're going to log into 25-26 so we can see how this process works. I'm going to click on, I'm going to click on reports. And then once I'm at reports, I can choose LEA reports or site reports because I'm an LEA coordinator. A site coordinator will only have site reports here. I'm going to scroll down until I find ELPAC Student Eligibility Report. And here, since I'm talking about the initial ELPAC, I'm going to pull up initial ELPAC, initial alternate ELPAC. Notice in this particular report, initial ELPAC and the initial alternate ELPAC are in the same report. That's not going to be the case for all reports that you're going to pull. So you got to watch out for the potential that you have only half of your list, or typically it's a higher population of initial ELPACs, lower population of initial alternate ELPACs, but 2 times to pull for many of the data pools. That's what this report looks like. It's going to give you information like whether or not the student is special education. It's going to have their grade. And this grade is going to be important in a couple slides when we talk about planning. Planning for how much time you need by estimate for testing. All right, that is our algebra report demonstration. Here's the warning that the caveat that Jadine mentioned. The report is only going to show students who are in CalPads and who have a TBD. If you're making summer enrolled students eligible for the initial LPAC in TOMS prior to the official start of school, CalPads is going to have that enrollment record and populated with the enrollment start date of the first day of school. And then CalPads is going to have something called a student English language acquisition record with a TBD, a primary language, and a start date. And that start date has to conform to the CalPAD rules for that for that ELAS start date. It's not going to be necessarily the first day of school, but it's going to be prior to your testing date. And that primary language has got to be not English and or not American Sign Language. Either of those will prevent the students from showing up in your system. Of course, a TBD does not would not normally associate with an English or ASL. So some LEAs explicitly choose to not pre-enroll summer students. So you may find none for your initial LPAC in the summer testing. And the thing is that state has structured rules that protect you if you do testing in the summer and the student moves on to a different district later on when they actually enroll. So even if the student moves to a different district, you as a testing LEA still get the apportionment rate for the test, and the score remains the actual score. And here's another place that you're going to want to collaborate with your CalPads coordinator. They've got a reference point on summer testing, CalPads Update Flash 279 or any successors, and that's about assessing students for English language acquisition status during July and August. All right, so let's transition to the 30-day initial LPAC and initial alternate LPAC window. And once you get another place where you have an opportunity to make friends with your CalPADS coordinator, they're going to start getting data discrepancy errors for students out of compliance with this 30-day window. So within 30 calendar days of enrollment, let's talk about that initial LPAC process, that 30-day window. It has to happen within that window. To start with, the student must be identified. That means it starts with a home language survey. And if a primary language other than English or American Sign Language is indicated, the student, once they have a SSID, and the student will need that TBD status in CalPads. And then 24 to 48 hours after that CalPads entry, you'll start to see the ability to test in the testing system. Students with a TBD status must be tested, of course, within those 30 calendar days of enrollment if they have never taken an LPAC or have not been classified as an English learner in California. Students with an IEP indicating alternate assessments take the initial alternate LPAC. A best practice is for the IEP team to use the alternate assessment participation decision-making tool for California when making that decision. So those initial alternate LPACs are very rare compared to the initial LPAC. Then you're going to notify the parent. Notify the parent that the student will be tested with the initial LPAC. And that's required before testing. Use a locally approved letter. Then you're going to prepare for tests. You're going to complete those enrollment steps, notify, schedule testing promptly. No waiting is needed after that notification. Ensure the test examiner is trained and calibrated prior to testing, and then you're going to make sure that you're providing user universal tools or designated support if an IEP is not specified accommodations, and designated supports and accommodations if that IEP has specified accommodations. Those need to get into the system, and the student needs to know how to use them. Student must be assessed, and assessments then must be scored. And so there's the administration of either the initial LPAC, which results in an English learner or initial fluent English proficient status, IFAP or EL status, or the initial alternate LPAC, which could result in a fluent intermediate or novice EL. After testing, tests will have to be scored, and then you'll report the results to parents or guardians. LEA LPAC coordinators often collaborate on the step with their EL teams on the template for the initial parent notification letter that meets the federal Title I or Title III and state requirements. In fact, you find that template letter in the multilingual section of CDE's website rather than on the testing section. So you'll follow local procedures to update systems, notify your staff, especially EL coordinators and EL staff members. And all steps from identification through reporting must be completed within those 30 days of enrollment. Testing in the summer can begin as early as July 1st. Sometimes July 1st is on a weekend and there's a rollover in there. So sometimes it's a few days after July 1st. But summer testing and pre-enrollment in CalPads can help you ensure that you're complying with that 30-day timeline because those are bonus days during the summer. You get all those days during the summer free. The timeline starts ticking on the first day of enrollment. All right, LPAC. The initial LPAC is the required state assessment for English language proficiency. So you're required to test 100%. All eligible students are required to test. There's no parent or guardian opt-out, no medical exemption for these assessments. If you're unable to test within the 30 days, document, document, document. All right, so initial LPAC and initial alternate LPAC, what does it look like? What is the test design? You're going to look at a test that has 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Those domains are going to drive your preparation, and this is what we're going to talk about in this context. In that context, you're going to need 2 devices needed during testing. The first device is, of course, the test examiner's device. That's a district laptop that opens a regular web browser, logs into the TA interface. That's the control room. It launches the test session, approves a student, views a script if you have the digital DFA, and inputs scores for sections like speaking and writing in real time, ideally. And then the second device is going to be the student's device. That's the presentation screen. Student sits in front of that, and it's displaying test questions, pictures, interactive stimuli. Students running that on a secure browser app. So that secure browser app is installed. All right, planning consideration. Time is going to be one of your first considerations for planning. So students are allowed as much time as needed to complete the test, but for planning, the CAASPP at LPAC page, initial LPAC estimated testing time, is a go-to resource for getting an estimate of how much time you'll need to book for your staff. As you're making your estimates, you'll consider whether a test has individual administration or group administration. For example, speaking, it's one-on-one for all students in every grade level. Staffing and space are critical. Kindergarten through grade 2, administered one-on-one. Grade 2, writing is the only exception. You can see the online test administration manual for details on that. K through 2 writing, that's going to use a paper test booklet, but it's still part of the online test. Grades 3 through 12, listening, reading, and writing may be given for groups of up to 20 students per examiner and for additional students if a proctor is there. All right, let's look at what that looks like. If I can find my browser. Here's that initial LPAC estimated test times. This will give you an idea of how much time by grade level you'll need for each of those different domains. Shifting on to planning considerations for the initial alternate LPAC, all students taking the alternate are administered the initial alternate LPAC one-on-one. As specified in the directions for administration, the DFA, student responses are entered in the student's testing interface by the test examiner or by the student if the student is able to. And staffing and space are critical, of course, for that because it's one-on-one. The initial alternate LPAC is designed to be administered by a test examiner who is familiar with the student, familiar with the student's preferred mode of communication. And the test is measuring a student's listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills using expressive, that's writing and speaking, and receptive, that's reading and listening, integrated task types. Now on to your role after testing. Initial LPAC and initial alternate LPAC are given year-round, including summer. The majority of your students needing testing with the initial LPAC will arrive at the beginning of the school year. However, you need to regularly monitor testing completion and eligibility so no students are missed. There are two main ways to check completion in TOMS. The TOMS dashboard has a quick snapshot of who has and who hasn't tested. And the test completion rates section shows testing progress by domain. All right, so on to a demo of test completion and monitoring testing. So we're going to start here in TOMS. We're going to start at the home page. And we are currently in 25-26. You won't have anything show up for a 26-27 because there will be no eligibility for testing with the initial LPAC yet for next year. If you look at it today on May 21st, 2026. But you should have something like this on your front page, which is a great resource for monitoring testing progress. It's their dashboard, and it's when you sign into TOMS, it's a quick view to see where you are in testing. It shows you if you have students who are not tested. So if you go to under the test completion status, you look at initial LPAC, you can see who has not been tested and who is past the timeline and what the completion status is. This, by the way, is a demo system, so you should have something that looks a little bit different than this with some numbers in there. And so check it out on your own system and see what it looks like. All right, the other way, you're going to click the completion status link. And under this click that says links, I'm going to click completion status. And then it's going to bring me to something that we call TIDE. The reason we call it TIDE is it's got this word TIDE here. And that is standing for something, which is not coming to me right now, but I won't even try to tell you what that stands for. But it stands for something involving testing. Here we are in the dashboard, and this is where we're going to go in to try to find test completion rates. Okay, we can do specific rates, or we can do summary rates. We can get a rate that looks a little bit like that summary report on the other page, or we can go in and find individual students, or even search by individual SSID. Here I'm going into Plan and Manage Testing Advanced Search, and I'm going to look for all students. And I'm going to do that here in Advanced Search. Whenever I do Advanced Search, it will bring up the wrong test. By that, I mean not the test I was looking for. So I will generally click on all the buttons and then get up the wrong test and then go back and do that over again. And here I'm going to put my broadest selection here so I can get just about anything that's out there. I'm going to choose, if you don't click any here, it won't give you anything either. And then I'm going to generate a report. Generating the report, it lists a bunch of names and a bunch of tests. I want you to notice something here is I've got, there's 4 records. Let me see if I can find one with 5. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 records. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. So I've got an image of example of this that I'm going to show you, and that image, which I can bring up looks like this. I'm going to drag it over here. And here is an image of test completion. And you'll notice that there's an initial completed for speaking, online data entry, and an initial completed for speaking for the test. And it says hand scoring. Those are two different elements. And you may have gotten, if you are the LEA coordinator, a notification that you did one and not the other. That's a DEI got missed. And this step is crucial in getting a score for an individual student. It has to be scored in the system in addition to having been administered. All right, I think that's what we're doing for the demo on this one. So let's move on.
And Stephen, Moses put in the TIDE is the Test Information Distribution Engine, because that just
Boom.
rolls right off your tongue.
It does. It does. We might as well join the military. I believe they have more acronyms than education.
Thank you, Moses.
Okay, here we are on after student testing. After testing, download student results in TOMS. Stores should be available 48 hours after all domains are submitted and scored, or alternate assessments are submitted. Results will automatically update CalPads with EL or initial fluent English proficient status. So that status, that the result of the scoring, IFAP or EL, of course, EO is not a possible outcome of a TBD. And if the student is still TBD, the test didn't get scored or some other issue occurred. CalPads will be updated. So that means your CalPads coordinator needs to pull down those statuses and update the SIS with those statuses. There needs to be a process to enter the results in that SIS. You're going to need to notify your parents within that required 30-day timeline. And then note that student score reports are available in TOMS as PDFs. And you can use the TOMS data file with the parent notification letter template. Translations are available. In your resource guide, you'll find links to guidance materials you'll come back to again and again. You're going to want to download coordinator checklists, not just for your role, but for roles you supervise or that supervise you. That way you can ensure that you know the job from all angles. You know what your site coordinators are supposed to be doing in this month or next, and how to manage that with them. You're going to want to visit the Coordinator How-To Hub. And this is a new thing in the last maybe 2 years. This has got excellent vignettes from LEA coordinators from across the state, speaking about their experience in a small, medium, and large LEAs. Each of those tasks that you have to do in TOMS or in the systems is described by these different perspectives and uniquely. Excellent resource. You should check that out. TOMS has numerous resources. We looked at a few of them today. And you'll want to work through the accessibility resources as well so that you can advise your teams, your IEP teams, your teachers on how to use those and what the appropriate use of those is. All right, we're going to assign some homework. Our goal for homework is to take action. These are our action items and take action on our key priorities out of today. Our actions items are, you're going to download the LEA ELPAC coordinator checklist for both initial alternate ELPAC and alternate and the initial ELPAC. You're going to visit the coordinator how-to hub. You're going to determine local processes for administration of the home language survey. You're going to meet with your CalPads coordinator. You're going to find Moodle keys and complete the Moodle LEA certification. You're going to ensure your LEA has ordered initial ELPAC K through 2 writing booklets. And you're going to order initial alternate ELPAC picture cards if that is necessary for your students. All right. With that, we are going to begin the question and answer session. I encourage you to continue to submit your questions as we are responding. And we also are joined by Moses with ETS, who is additionally supporting you in these questions.
All right. Hey, Stephen, thanks. I wanted to do a quick share out if I could.
Oh, I will stop share.
Okay. Yep. Got it. There were a couple questions in the question and answer section there. Someone was asking, like, is there a step-by-step or a checklist? And where is that? So I wanted to show you where that lives. All right. So I'm in the CAASPP-LPAC.org website. And if you go to the tab up here in the white banner and you click resources, right here, it's called Coordinator Checklist. There's one for CASP and one for LPAC, if you happen to serve in both roles. And then you've heard us mention a couple other things in here. There's different information right here. And then there was a question also about how do I get to those manuals quick and easy? Same place over here on the far right-hand side, these additional resources. The manuals library, I think that is what the person was asking about. So here under resources, there was another question about the how-to hub and where this information is. So under training and communication on the top, there's the coordinator how-to hub. These are the Stephen mentioned the vignettes. They live here, and there's a section specific to initial LPAC, and there are different little YouTube videos. I strongly recommend you get yourself some popcorn or some little candies or something and sit and watch these little videos. Additionally, there was a question about where will this recording be, because you guys were given a lot of information with some great demos. And those will get posted here on the upcoming and on-demand training, all right? And it'll be in the all trainings and recordings because it defaults to the upcoming. And then you can go to the all trainings, and then that's where you'll be able to find the recordings. Give the team a week to 2 weeks to get everything updated and get that posted, right? And then one other question that just popped in is, how do you know if you're an RSVP person? Well, remember there's this search feature up here, and I love to use it. So I put in RSVP, and let's see what we get. All right, RSVP for initial LPAC. You can click on that. And then once you scroll down, there's a section down here at the bottom. You can enter your LEA in here and find out if you are a part of the RSVP group for the 2026-2027. All right. So thank you, Stephen, for letting me do that quick little demo. And if you could go ahead and put your questions in the chat. I can see everyone's working hard to administer or to answer your questions and to get those going for you.
JD, it looks like we have time for one more question if you have one.
All right. How about I take this one, Stephen? We are still testing students, but have 72% released and 94 for all. Do you recommend waiting to download? Oh, that's a summative LPAC question. Moses, do you have a preference on that one?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, depending upon how you're using them, if you're wanting to start downloading it now, you can download it multiple times. Either way is fine. You can download the ones you have now and then download it again when you start to see the rest of them drop.
Yes.
That's really an LEA choice, depending upon how you're using them and how you're wanting to start to distribute them.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And yeah, I think that got us. Boy, a whole lot of information. I hope that you have found this information helpful, everyone, and welcome. I know we're still working in LPAC for 25-26, and hopefully you find this information timely and helpful as we move into 26-27. All right, Melissa, take it away.
Awesome. Well, to close out today, we do want to promote some of these upcoming trainings that would be beneficial for you to attend. We have the new coordinator trainings, June 11th. We have your role in the assessment system. June 18th, we have managing users. July 16th, we have receiving scores. We also have coffee sessions that are coming up, and the next coffee session is going to be June 9th. And we have the scoring and reporting webinar on June 11th. So if you find any of these interesting, please attend. There's lots of information that will be given. In addition to in early May, there was the initial ELPAC administration and scoring training, the AST overview and Q&A, which occurs annually. So if you want to see that, go to the CAASPP and ELPAC upcoming and on-demand trainings webpage to gather the materials from that as well. The next thing that we have coming up that we want to talk about is the California Assessment Conference, also known as the CAC. And registration for that is now open, and it is run from October 27th to October 29th at the Riverside Convention Center in Riverside. And this conference is designed specifically for classroom educators, site administrators, assessment coordinators, and others who touch the assessments. So we would like to let you know that the resource link is also in the resource guide. If you haven't already, we encourage you to sign up for the Assessment Spotlight emails. Subscription instructions are in the resource guide. And just, excuse me, additional updates follow. We want you to follow the CDE on X at CDE Assessments and also connect with CDE on Instagram. And with that, we hope the information was timely and helpful. Remember, support is always available through coordinator networks, LEA success agents, and CDE staff. There will be a quick 3-minute post-training evaluation when you exit the Zoom today. We encourage you to fill that out. And with that, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you at the next webinar. Take care.